Yo, what's going on? I've gotten a few comments on videos lately looking for more beats on the 404. So as a man of the people, we got the SP out. We're gonna be making a beat on this today, and I wanna do a certain style. As we go along, I'll explain the style and kind of the process of getting there. So let's just jump right into this beat. I think it's gonna be some really chill vibes today. Let's get right into it. And for this beat, we're gonna be sampling this George Benson record, Good King Bad. I'm a huge fan of George Benson. His Love Times Love, Give Me the Night record is one of my favorite records ever. So I'm just gonna quickly record the sample onto the SP, chop it up, and then we can get right into this beat. Let's do it. So I've got this sample chopped up on the 404. Here's a little taste how it sounds. As you can see, it's really quick, so I'll definitely want to lower the pitch of this and slow it down. But first thing we'll want to do is just put all these chops into the same mute group. That way we don't have to change them all individually, and it'll be good that they all cut each other off. So I'll go Shift, Mute Group. In the first one, I'll just put all these chops here. And now let's slow this chop down a little bit into a speed that we're more happy with. So you just hold down Copy to affect the entire mute group. Yeah, that's sick. So when I'm making beats on the 404, I find it usually inspires me to go with a little bit of a different style, a little bit sort of lo-fi, almost house inspired. So that's what I want to try to achieve for this. First thing we can do is put down the sample chop and make a pattern with it. But rather than going with the typical 4 bars or 2 or 8 or something that's really even, I'm going to do a 7-bar loop. That way it just is a little bit more off and gives us more of the 404 vibe. So I'll lay down the chop and then we can keep building on this beat. Let's do it. So I'm going to go to Pattern Select. We'll go Record onto this first spot right here. I'll turn the quantization to 100 just for the sample chop. Once we start laying down the drums, I'll probably do all the drums unquantized, but I do like to keep the chop quantized just as a starting point. And then we'll set up the length as 7 bars. And the BPM should be somewhere around 86, I'm guessing. Okay, let's record it. I'm really feeling that sample chop. I think it's going to give us something really swingy. We can do a lot of shuffle on it. So I'm going to copy the pattern onto a new pad, and then we can start laying some drums on this. So I'll just go copy, first pad to the next, copy. And now first thing I'm going to do is add a kick onto this. I was saying I wanted to do something kind of house beat inspired, and obviously synonymous with house music is the 4 on the floor beat, which is when you just have the kick going every quarter note, and then you would also have the snare going on the 2s and 4s. So let's lay down the kick. I'm going to make sure to have the kick going on every single quarter note, and I probably will add some pickups onto that too, some supplementary kicks. So in order to do that, I'm going to put the kick onto the 16 levels, and we can lay down a pattern. Let's do it. And so to use the 16 levels on the SP while you're recording, you just start the pattern. We'll go to Record, and then Rehearsal, so press record twice. Find the drum, whichever here. I'm going to go Shift, 16 velocity, and now we can figure out our pattern and record it. Nice, so let's start adding some additional percussion onto this. I want to use a shaker because, as I was saying, I think we can get like a really nice shuffle out of this. So I have 2 shaker samples loaded up here, just 2 sort of different pitches. I'm going to mess around with that, turn the quantization off on these drums, and then let's record something cool with the shaker on here, and we'll keep building this pattern up. Let's do it. And again, I'm going to copy this pattern onto a new pad. That way we're just kind of working back our progress. The one reason I like to do that is if we ever get to a point in the beat where we're not really feeling it, it's nice to kind of have each step by step in the process. That way we can kind of find the spot where we stopped liking the beat and build off of that rather than trying to delete all of the different pads that we've used. You can have sort of this place you can go back to and say, I'm going to work from here. It also is nice because when you're going to kind of jam on the beat, you'll have these different variations and different elements that have been added or taken out based on where you are in the process. So I'll copy that program onto a new pad and let's add the shaker on. Let's do it. And again, I just want to point out that I turned off quantization for that, which I'm going to do for the rest of the drums in here. Even though we have the shaker in here, I think a thing that would be cool to add as well, just kind of keeping with that 4 on the floor vibe, is to have the hi-hat going on all the offbeats, which is also just really synonymous with 4 on the floor and house. So I'm going to make a copy of the sequence and then let's just add in that hi-hat quick. Let's do it. And I'm just going to turn that hi-hat down a little bit just so it doesn't combat with the shaker. Let's do that. And now let's add a snare into this beat. Typically with the 4 on the floor, obviously we would want to do the snare on the 2 and 4. Just in order to kind of differentiate it and give it a bit of a different vibe, I want to try just doing the snares on the 4 rather than the 2 and 4. And actually found 2 snares that I think would work pretty cool with this beat, which are these. And rather than trying to pick between the two, I'm just going to use both. What I also want to do is record the 2 snares separately rather than just playing them like this. I think we'll just get a little bit more of a variation and a little bit more human error if we record those separately. So I'm going to leave quantization off, but I'm going to record those 2 snares once the first round through and then the other one the second time through, and I'm only going to play it on the 4th beat of each of the bars. So let's lay that down and see what kind of vibe we get with just doing it on the 4s. I think this beat's turning out kind of cool. It's definitely a different vibe than what I would usually put together, but that's what I like about the SP is I find that with its different workflow than the samplers I'm usually using, it really kind of changes the way you think about how you're making beats. And even just the way it looks and feels, I find just usually gets a certain vibe out of me, so that I'm really into. But now let's lay a bass line on this beat. It's definitely what it needs. I'm going to try to keep it pretty simple. And kind of just match the bass line of the sample. That way we can just enhance the sound of it and kind of hone in on those frequencies that we want. So let's lay down that bass line. And of course I'm going to copy that sequence onto a new pad and then record the bass line on that sequence. Let's get it. I'm also going to keep the bass way too loud here just so that I make sure I can hear it while I'm recording it, and then I'll just turn it down once the bass line's recorded. So bear with me for a second, it's just going to sound a little bit insane. sick. Now that we have that bass line recorded, I'm just going to turn it down a bit. Okay, sick. I think this beat's in a pretty cool spot. One sequence I want to make is just the full sequence with the sample chop and the bass line only. That way we can kind of almost mute the drums when we're trying to just mess around and jam on this beat. So I was blessed with this really easy way of doing that from a commenter on my last 404 video, so thank you so much. You know who you are. You kind of saved me hours on this machine with your tip. So here's what it is. So if I copy the sequence that we just did with all of the drums, etc., which is right here, if I copy that onto a new pad, I now again have that full sequence with everything included. So now if I go to pattern edit and I select the sequence that we just copied onto, having all of those elements, when I hold down delete, it will take me to all of the samples. Here are the samples that are included in that sequence. So while I'm holding delete, I can select all of the samples I want to get rid of. I'm going to leave the bass, obviously. And now once I press enter, still holding delete, the only thing we're going to be left with is that bass and the sample chop, because everything else we just got rid of without having to hold down the pads while the sequence goes through. So check it out. All those drums are gone. Now if I do the same thing, I'll copy that sequence again onto sequence 8. Again, we have all the drums there. Let's say we wanted to just keep the shaker and the kick. I'm going to go to pattern edit, make sure that the new sequence is selected, hold down delete, navigate to the drums. This is the kick, so I'll leave that. These are the snares, I'll get rid of those. We'll leave the shakers and get rid of the hi-hats. Enter, and now here's what we're left with. It's magic. This is literally going to save me hours on end of just holding down the pads, which is what I was doing previously. So again, thank you if you're watching, really appreciate it. So the last thing I think that'd be cool to add on to this jam is just some vox. So I have these two sounds.
Oh, yeah, oh.
Which might be a little bit loud. I'll see if I can turn those down.
Oh.
But obviously you can tell who that is. One of the most recognizable voices in hip hop, Biggie. So let's just jam on that. We'll add in a couple of the vox sounds onto the main sequence, and then I think this is going to be in a pretty cool spot.
Oh. Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
And I think that wraps it up for this beat. I hope you had a good time just chilling and jamming on the 404 today. It's definitely a super inspiring machine that I feel like I often get more into the beat than I do into the technicalities of it. So I don't always necessarily get as polished beats, but it's something that's super creative and just gets you kind of flowing. But again, really appreciate you for hanging out. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed. If you liked the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Hope to see you soon. Peace.
Yeah.